Hi, I'm Sal Mercogliano, Associate Professor of History at Campbell University, a former merchant mariner, and an adjunct professor of maritime industry policy at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. And welcome to this episode of What's Going On with Shipping. There seems to be something wrong with our bloody ships today edition. Today is June 1st. It is the anniversary of the Battle of Jutland, but that's not what we're going to be talking about today. Instead, what we're going to be talking about is two vessels that have both appeared to have sunk in the Indian Ocean. So one of the vessels we've already talked about, and that is the Express Pearl. So let's head on over here to the story at G Captain. So this is the story at G Captain. Express Pearl partially sinks off of Colombo. The fire has continued to progress, and it looks like the vessel's stern is now sitting on the bottom. Salvage teams went on board. There was an attempt to tow her off that basically has failed. And the vessel now, let me pull over here to the full story here so you can see the full story here with it. And I'm going to bring up this story here from the Sri Lankan Air Force, which is then doing it. Here's the image of them attempting to tow the vessel right here. You can see how low in the water she's getting right there, heading down. Obviously, there's been compromises of her watertight integrity, not to mention the fact they've been flooding this vessel with a lot of water to put the fires out. And now it appears that the vessel is going to be unrecoverable, at least salvageable, to float out. They would have to basically scrap her in place. Let's head over here to the video. This is the Sri Lankan. Let's kill the audio here. Sri Lankan Air Force. I've been following more Sri Lankan Air Force videos here than I ever thought possible. And hats off to the Sri Lankan Air Force, the Sri Lankan Navy, their Coast Guards, the Indian Navy and Coast Guard. They've been out here doing yeoman service. Again, fortunately, no one was lost in this. But again, we're dealing with an environmental damage to the area. You can see right there, discoloration in the water, pollutants in the water. So you're seeing issues right there happening. That's probably the ship actually grounding on the bottom right there. You can see the aft house up there. Most of the containers have either collapsed onto themselves or collapsed into the ocean and the sea. Just a pure mess. And again, completely avoidable. Had Qatar or India or any nation allowed this vessel to come in and offload the cargo that was on board that they reported to be leaking and broken loose from within the interiors of this container. This is a problem that's magnified across the world's oceans. As we ship more containers around the world, this is a problem that happens all the time. I had a video showing the CMA, CGM, Marco Polo coming into Savannah, heading up down the east coast of the United States. That would be magnified on a vessel of that size. This vessel, Express Pearl, is just a fraction of the size, carries a fraction of the cargo that those big container ships carry. And since the MOL Comfort broke apart because, again, improper weights, not knowing what was on board that ship contributed to her cracking and the loss of the vessel in the Indian Ocean, we've seen this happen time and time again. I did a whole video on container ship losses, and we discussed that in there. So again, a great job here by the Sri Lankans to keep on to it, but this story is by no means over. There's going to be a massive cleanup associated with this vessel, and the coastline of Sri Lanka will be suffering from the pollutants and the damage for quite a while at this point. We now head over to Brunswick, Georgia, and the scrapping of the Golden Ray. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the fire that had consumed the Golden Ray. Again, this is the car carrier that rolled over in September of 2019. The decision was made to basically slice the hull, even though the original plans were much different, but the P&I insurance, the protection and indemnity, and the hull and machinery insurance companies decided to go a different route. Instead of raising the vessel, they decided to do this slicing method using the VB1000 there with anchor chain to slice it. Well, what we're getting now is pollutants in the water. You see right here, oil being contaminated into the water. And even though they have a containment boom around him, our buddy, the Menorcan mullet, Andy, Captain Andy down there in Brunswick, was been broadcasting. And again, if you don't follow the Menorcan mullet, you should. If you're interested in the story, that's who you listen to. Don't listen to me. Listen to Andy. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He's been down there the entire time. But he and his boat have been able to pull elements of this sludge, whatever it is, oil, who knows what's in this vessel leaking right now, even though they're supposed to have removed everything because of you couldn't get into the vessel. There's pockets probably of oil, of lubricants, who knows, that they were not able to get out. And as they've been slicing it, as the hull's been compromised due to heat damage, Now you're seeing it basically leaking out. And so what you're getting here is pollutants into Brunswick Sound. And again, this is such a pristine area down there, beautiful area right down there, St. Simon's, Jekyll Island. And again, just another catastrophe. And this is a vessel that went down in September of 2019. Again, I understand the cost. I understand a lot of the logistics behind salvage operations, but you cannot tell me that raising a vessel intact is better. It is not better than doing what they're doing down here right now. So again, I'll get comments from it. I know, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm not a salvage expert. Again, that's just my perception of what would have been a better course of action to prevent this type of contaminants from getting loose. The final story I want to talk about, again, losing ships here, is Iran. This is the Iranian naval ship Kharg. She is an oiler. She's a replenishment vessel for the Iranian Navy. She reported a fire last night in her engine room, and that fire has led to the vessel being abandoned and sinking. Right here, you'll see the vessel going down. That is the aft house, the hangar deck on the aft area. She has a area for helos. This is actually a modified British design. The British built for the Royal Fleet Auxiliary a series of vessels, the OL class, the OL class. And this is one of a derivation of them, not one of the originals, but a ship built to that same classification. You can see her going down. You can see that she's listing hard to starboard, her bows coming up, fire in the engine room into the auxiliary machine room, fires of high heat in the engine room will melt gaskets and dividers between water pipes coming into the vessel, which could lead to flooding. And so now we see the vessel flooding and sinking at this time. That's what she usually looks like. Again, this is where you're seeing the fires come out of those big, huge hangar decks down here. This is the engine room. The auxiliary machine room is up here. The oil and fuel is stored forward, machinery back aft. And again, she is heading down to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. She was slated for a deployment over into the Atlantic, believe it or not. She was going to go and head into the Atlantic. And this brings into issue a story that I have not touched upon yet, but has been going on in the news. And this is Iranian oil tankers are prohibited from exporting certain oil because of embargoes. But Iran and Venezuela have been keeping up this clandestine trade in oil and commodities, even though Venezuela and Iran each produce oil. Venezuela in particularly is short of refining capacity. So Iran is importing oil from Venezuela or buying Venezuelan oil. And in turn, Iran is delivering refined oil to Venezuela. Well, one of the stories that was in USNI News, United States Naval Institute News, was the arrival of this ship in Venezuela the other day. The ship in question is this vessel right here. Here she is, the Makran. The Makran is the Iranian version of this vessel right here. This is the USS Lewis B. Puller. USS Lewis B. Puller is an expeditionary support base. She's a modified Alaska class supertanker. And what they've done is taken the supertanker hull, cut it down to basically the waterline, added this flight deck, a huge crewing area up forward. They've got housing back aft. This is the biggest flight deck in the U.S. Navy, except for the large deck amphibs and the aircraft carriers. Just an all-around purpose vessel. You can launch small craft from the main deck, drones, you name it. I mean, it is basically a floating support base. You can dock vessels alongside of it. Just great. What the Iranians did is basically just slap a flight deck on top of one of their tankers and call it the same thing. That's not the same thing, but that's what the Iranians do. That's what they call it. But meanwhile, back here, as you'll see right here, she's carrying these fast attack boats, these 57-foot attack boats that she carries. These are the vessels that you will hear all the time in the news going around vessels. She showed up. This is her loading out of Bandar Abbas. She's in Venezuela. She thought they were going to offload them there, but now she is left. The latest story by Sam Legrone out of USNI News is that she's left with these vessels on board, and no one's exactly sure where they're going. So she's out there. We don't know where she's going at right now. She's their forward support base, and we don't know where she's going. So that'll be a fun story to follow. She's somewhere in the Caribbean heading out there. The reason I mention this to you is this is part of a long story between Iran and Israel. Iran and Israel have been engaged in this tit for tat attacks against each other's vessels. Israel has been striking Iranian vessels. Iran has been striking Israeli commercial vessels. And this is a story in the New York Times that talks about this. This is even another story that came out of USNI News, where they talk about these attacks. One of the most recent attacks was the attack of an Iranian support base in the Red Sea. There was an attack, supposed attack, on an Israeli car carrier off of Oman that was able to leave. And this is basically just an escalation between them. We don't know what has led to this. This could have been just simply an engine room fire that got out of control. That's that happens. And so we don't know if this was sabotage. We don't know if this is just accidents. We don't know. But understand that one of the things that Iran will do is blame Israel for this, probably. And we're seeing this escalation. Add to it that story about this vessel pulling out of Venezuela with 7 fast attack craft on board. That's an interesting story. So thought I'd give you the update on the Express Pearl, on the Makran, that's this vessel here, on the Kharg, the vessel that sank, the Iranian vessel that sank, and a quick update on the Golden Ray down in St. Simons in Georgia. So a lot going on. If you missed it, because I got it out late, and I apologize about it, I had to pull a video back and then redo it. I got a 2-part episodes out on Memorial Day. Part 1 talks about the role of the Merchant Marine in national defense today with a look at military Sea Lift Command. And the second one looks at the Merchant Marine in history, specifically World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam. That came out late last night. I apologize. It got out late. And so a lot of you may not have seen it, but the 2 videos are out there. I've got links in the show notes for them, or just go over to my page. And if you haven't been alerted about that, the best way to do that is to go ahead, subscribe to the channel. At the very end of the video, the subscribe button will come up. Hit the bell so that you'll be alerted about new videos when they come up. And also be sure to give it a thumbs up, a like, so that it'll be shared on YouTube among other people. I got some changes I got coming forward for the channel. I really want to implement and do some ideas and concepts. I've been receiving great feedback from everyone, and I really appreciate it. It's really nice of the support I get from everybody who likes the videos, who shares the videos and gets them out. It's very humbling. Again, I do this all the time. This is what I do and what I research and watch. So I'm very, very appreciative of it. So this is Sal signing off. Have a good rest of the day.